everybody, and welcome back. We are on our last night tonight. We are talking tonight all about qualification pathways for our teenagers. And then that's from 7 till 8, and then from just after 8 till 9 o'clock, we will be taking your questions. So please pop your questions in the comments and we will get back to them later. Now, I've got amazing guests with us tonight. We have the lovely Shirley Erwee from Line Feather Learning. We have Nikki Royce from the Cambridge Group. We have Erin Parkinson as well, and myself. So you've got 4 of us tonight. We've all got different experiences. And before we pop into the qualification pathways, it is my job tonight to say you don't necessarily have to go down the qualification pathway. It's one of those things that your child does not have to get UE qualifications necessarily. You may want them to, you may not need them to. In fact, a lot of career paths don't need that UE qualification. It is not the be-all and end-all. In New Zealand, we are absolutely blessed to have an alternative pathway to higher education. And don't forget that our universities and polytechnics have open entry from age 20. So tonight, when we are talking about qualification pathways, it is for getting our 17 and 18-year-olds straight into uni after their high school years. Home educated students can enter also via special admissions department without any set qualifications necessarily. Students may need to write an application and provide a portfolio of the work they have achieved over the past few years. This is an option open to us. Some of the universities have their particular entry requirements on their websites. So go have a look. Think about what university or polytechnic that you may want your teenager to go to first. And go see what their admission requirements are. This is an option to us. It is recommended to do this 2 or 3 years prior to it, so you have those years available to work to achieve what your child needs to get in, depending on your situation. Now, there are also a multitude of bridging and foundation courses offered through both universities and polytechnics here in New Zealand. And honestly, education here is absolutely amazing. We can gain credits based, sorry guys, I'll come back. I don't know why my camera keeps doing that. You can get credits, your base credits, your foundational credits, to then be able to get into those higher level courses. It may mean your child has an extra 6, possibly even 18 months of additional study to do those, but it does mean that they are going to gain entry into the courses that they want. But what do you do if your child doesn't want to do high level study? So this was us. I now have, my eldest son is now 19. And at about year 9, year 10, we had quite a high academic workload because we were working towards him potentially getting his UE qualifications. And it wasn't working for us. The workload was too high. It interfered with other stuff that he wanted to do. He was hating it. I was hating it. The family was hating it. So we made the decision to not. And that was okay. It was a conscious decision. We knew the pathways that were open to him later. I talked it through with him. He was perfectly aware that he would get to 17, 18 and not be able to walk into any course. He was aware of that. I was aware of that. It was very much a eyes open situation. And he decided that he would rather have 6 to 12 months of additional study at the age 17, 18, doing bridging courses or foundation courses than slog through the next 4 years doing a high level of academic study. We knew there were other pathways open to him, and if he wanted them, he had them there as he got older. Turns out we didn't need them in his situation. He got an apprenticeship for building at about 17. He was just off 18 actually. He was about halfway through the end of his official year 13, and there was a job going in the paper. He saw it, I saw it, and I went, dude, why not? They weren't looking for an apprentice builder, but I said, just write a cover letter flick your CV, like ask, or they can only say no. So that's what we did. And he got the job. He got the job based on who he was. In all honesty, because I've talked to his boss since. His boss is amazing. But he got the job on his character, his work ethic. He was actually known around town because of his volunteer work. We live in a small town. But he was known for the volunteer work he had done previously because he had attended youth group and he attended sports. So his boss happened to know 2 or 3 people that knew Isaac directly. And that was how he got the apprenticeship, even though he wasn't actually looking for an apprentice. He was looking for a qualified builder, but it worked. So these things are an option, potentially. You just have to be a little bit cheeky sometimes. You have to do your research. You have to know. We don't even have to know where your kid's going, but you have to be that support person for your kid. And that is what tonight is all about. So if your child does need qualifications, how do we do that as home educating mums? Now, first up tonight is the lovely Shirley, and I will add her to stage with me. Welcome, Shirley. Shirley is the CEO, I guess, of Lime Feather Learning, an amazing homeschool mum, and I will hand the stage straight over to her for her presentation. Welcome, Shirley. You've got to unmute yourself, Shirley.
Thanks, Krystel. In the next few minutes, I'm just going to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me, and we're each going to do that, and then later I'll do a presentation about the GED. So I don't need that presentation now. I thought I'll just first tell you, I'm like everyone else, a homeschooling mum. I've got 6 kids, been homeschooling for over 20 years. And when my eldest daughter was in the mid-high school years, we started looking at the pathways to getting a school leaving certificate. And I discovered the American GED as an amazing solution, which has appealed to her. And subsequently, 3 of my other children have also completed their GED. And what we liked about it is that we were able to end high school with a qualification, with a certificate that's equivalent to year 13 or to the American grade 12 qualification. And when paired with the SAT, which is the American College Entrance Examination, you can get university entrance at all 8 universities in New Zealand if you wish. And of course, most polytechnics and other places that offer diplomas and vocational training of any kind will also accept it. So if your children want to get a job, you have a credential that says that they're not a high school dropout, that they've actually completed their homeschooling high school years. And in my daughter's case, she decided to go and work overseas and au pair in Europe. And she had to have paperwork to prove that she had completed high school. So this certificate served her very well. And we've just found it such a great solution that suits our home educating lifestyle, which is very flexible and, you know, not driven by outside curriculum providers, that I got excited and started telling other people about it. And then in 2016, I was offered the opportunity to market the study program that we now offer to New Zealand homeschoolers through Lime Feather Learning. And I'll explain in how the GED works and what you need to do when I come back in a couple of minutes.
No, Shirley, you can go straight into your presentation. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll do it right away. Let me just do present. Thanks. So I'm just going to quickly introduce you to my family. We are originally from South Africa, and I run a business offering the same course, Go Prep, in South Africa. And we've always had a very relaxed approach to home education. You can see I've had to cope with multiple ages. Had babies and toddlers for many years of homeschooling. We've done a lot of literature-based learning, and we followed an eclectic approach where, you know, we use some core curricula for, you know, maths, English, science, social studies, but we're very flexible, and we've been able to customize the education to suit our kids' talents and interests, like the one daughter who's arty, and my kids have done practical things at home, you know, just because they're living in the adult world actually with us. So this was when my eldest daughter was about 14, 15, and I started investigating the GED. I took her to a homeschool expo, showed her some of the other options, which we're going to discuss tonight, like Cambridge and doing the government school matric or grade 12 exams. But she chose the GED, and she graduated in 2023 from Massey University in Auckland. And so why would you consider the GED? So I love this cartoon that just shows that we're all different and we all have different talents. And the school system makes everybody climb the same tree or take the same examinations. But as homeschoolers, as I said, we can give our children this customized education, and we can allow them to excel at what they're good at. But society in general wants us to have credentials and paperwork that prove that we've completed our education as a homeschooler or as a public school child. And that's where the GED is an amazing solution. So it's recognized in New Zealand as a year 13 alternative, and we find it very flexible and convenient. And what's great is there are only 4 exams plus the SAT, which would be your 5th exam. And it is widely accepted by the universities, as I said, and also it's an international credential. Sorry, I'm going very fast through these slides because of the time. So as I said, all 8 universities do accept it. I have checked their requirements on their website, and I've also emailed them and got confirmation in writing from their admissions staff that they do accept the GED and SAT combination. Yeah, this just says polytechnics and other places will accept it. And you do need to just check that there are no additional requirements for the specific course that your child may wish to get into. For example, my one daughter was accepted for a degree in visual communication, which is graphic design and that kind of arty stuff. And so in addition to the minimum requirements, which was the GED and SAT, she needed to submit a portfolio of artwork. For other courses, you may need to take additional tests to prove competency in, say, physics and calculus if you want to do engineering. So you do need to just check those requirements in advance. What is on the GED? As I said, only 4 subjects: math, science, social studies, and the English is called Reasoning Through Language Arts. If you enroll with us, we recommend that you study 1 or 2 subjects at a time. The program we offer is online and it is self-paced, which is great because students can then master each lesson and move at their own pace. They don't have to, keep up with a schedule or the timetable set by somebody else. This is just a screenshot of the student dashboard on the learning program. And as a parent, you can log in. And if you look around, you can see in the bottom corner, there's a graph that shows the student's study time. So you can check up and see how many hours they've studied per week or per month. You can see their scores on the bottom left. And the green and blue bars in the top right just show their progression through the study course. So it's easy for you to supervise. You don't have to teach them anything because all the lessons are designed for self-study. There are little tutorials, there are quizzes, and there are tests that you can use to monitor how they've mastered that work. And when they've completed a course, it tells them if they're ready to book their test. So students can go and book a test on a date that suits them when they know that they are ready, and that takes away a lot of exam anxiety. Before you can take the official exam, you also have to take the mock exam, which you do at home on your own device. And you have to pass that, and it tells you again that you are test ready and build your confidence for the real exam. The real exam is done on computer at the test center, which in Auckland is in Auckland at the moment. That is the only test center in New Zealand. So you may need to plan your travel to accommodate that if you're not in Auckland, but it's manageable. You could go and do 2 tests and then 2 months later go again and say do the last 2 tests. For learners who have any kind of learning difficulties that have been officially diagnosed, you can apply for accommodations on the test. There's a special process that you need to go through, and it takes about a month for it all to be approved. but normally students are given extra time. However, the accommodations are granted on a case-by-case basis depending on the need of the student. So the last thing, obviously, you show up at the center, you take your tests, and you do need to get 100 out of 200 to pass each test. In the States, if you get 165 or higher, you are considered college ready. So I just put that in out of interest. Here in New Zealand, each university has got their requirements published on their website, and I can give you that information at a later stage when you need that kind of detail. After you've passed all 4 tests, they email you a secure digital copy of your diploma and your transcript, which is your report with your scores. And you can also request hard copies to be posted or actually couriered to you. That's just a close-up shot of how the certificate looks. So this is your high school credential. It's your certificate that says you finished year 13 in essence here in New Zealand. The pricing is up there. That's the latest pricing that I have. So the enrollment is $350 New Zealand dollars. And then the tests are booked on the American website. So the pricing is in US dollars. And you can see what it is there. And I'm just, if time allows, I'll quickly just do the SAT is a college entrance test used widely in the USA. This year it became a digital test. So you need to take your own device to the test center, and it's done on your device on a specific app. It tests reading and writing and mathematics. So it has been shortened a lot. It used to be close to 4 hours. The new SAT prep is free on this app called the Blue Book that you can get on the Play Store or the Apple Store, whichever kind of device you have. And Khan Academy also has the free official SAT prep provided by the College Board, which is the body that offers the SAT tests. It can be written, the exams can be written or taken 6 times a year at those 4 cities listed at the top of this list: Auckland, Christchurch, New Plymouth, and Queenstown. Previously, they were offered in 7 cities, but I'm not involved with the College Board. I'm just providing this information as a courtesy. So I'm not sure if they've just reduced the number of test centers or whether next year they might rotate it to other cities. I can't tell you. We'll have to check in 2025. And the pricing in total is going to be $100 to do the SATs. Oh, and then I think I'll stop here. This was just my daughter that did the GED and SAT. As I said, she traveled overseas and then she studied at Massey, and it was a great solution for her. She did really well. My other daughter has also done it, and a number of other homeschoolers. But I think I'll just pause now, and other people need the time. So let's move on. Thank you very much. I'll answer questions when we have question time.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you so much. I know it was a very short space of time, but we've got a lot to jam pack in tonight. So I will rock on to the next one. So guys, if you have questions for Shirley, she is sticking around for the 8 to 9 session as well. So please pop your questions up in the chat, and we will answer them shortly. Thank you, Shirley. And I will bring in the lovely Nikki. Nikki, hello again. I've seen you a lot the last few nights. Thank you, and I will let you take the stage. Nikki is going to tell us all about the Cambridge exams, another option open to us here in New Zealand.
Hi. Most people have heard of Cambridge before because there are schools around, or they know people that have taken them. And what's interesting here is that they're actually seen as quite an academic option, which is quite strange because in England, everybody takes them, and they are designed to be taken by students of the whole range. That's the very brightest to the people who are struggling, and they are meant to accommodate everybody. So do not be put off Cambridge if you have a child that hates maths or is struggling with English. It just takes a little bit more careful preparation to know which subjects to take. So the good thing about Cambridge, and I'm not paid by Cambridge, it happened to have worked for my for my children, is you are not locked into anything until you actually pay for the exams themselves, which is you pay about 4 to 5 months before you actually sit them. And for most children, they usually sit what's called the IGCSE at around age 16. So if you sort of think NCA 1 is supposed to be about the equivalent of IGCSE, and it's supposed to be that AS is the next exam that some people take, and that's year 12, and then NCA 3 is supposed to be equivalent to the A level. So there are a choice of subjects and there are a choice of books. The past papers, so when a child has actually decided what they're going to study and they've got the book and they've been through the book and they've practiced, there are hundreds of past papers online that are free, and the mark schemes and the grade threshold, so you can sit and you can mark with your child and know exactly what grade they would have got on that paper, because it was the paper that people did, and it will tell you exactly what grade they would have taken, that would have achieved for that particular paper. There are even examiner reports which tell parents and teachers what the common mistakes were with that paper. And they're a real gift to us, because it's ridiculous things like pencils weren't sharp enough when doing mathematics and they tried to do a graph and you couldn't read it because the pencil point was actually far too large, and things like that, which actually you can practice doing when they're much younger. There's also, because the Cambridge exams are taken worldwide, there is just so much information out there. There is a syllabus available online from the main Cambridge site, which gives you more information you could possibly want to know about each subject, and exactly what is included and exactly what case studies might be needed. It's very comprehensive. If exams change, they give 2 or 3 years notice for the changes that are about to happen. There is no minimum or maximum age to take any of these exams. There's no minimum or maximum number of subjects you have to take. Having said that, most people normally take at least 5. That seems to be the magic number for IGCSEs. And then later on, it's a smaller number and you specialise for AS or A level. Another fantastic thing is you do not have to have taken these IGCSEs in order to be able to take your AS or A levels. So normally teachers like me would advise that you do, because it's just great practice. Those IGCSEs teach the children such a lot about how to revise and what level of work they need to produce to get what grade. But if you want to, you could just go straight in at A level, do that, and that's pretty much your UE done. Okay, a little bit more complicated than that. I'll talk about that in a second. Advantages to Cambridge. Okay, you can do really exciting subjects. So if your child is at school or whatever and they are bored of, I don't know, social studies, but they like certain bits of it, they can specialise. So they could do psychology IGCSE. That is not an NCEA option for NCA 1. Okay, that only comes later. They could do sociology. So if they're very politically active, which a lot of our youngsters are, sociology is a great option. Okay, it sort of leads into politics and economics. It's sort of in that space, and feminism, environmental management, travel and tourism, marine science. Oh, imagine doing marine science here. Some of those subjects are simply not offered at NCA 1. Another advantage is there is no coursework. Okay, so it's all done by exam. Having said that, there is a great disadvantage, which is there is no coursework. It means that if you're having a bad day for your exams, it's all to do with that day. You have to mitigate for things like that. You can't take music or art or dance or anything with coursework. Having said that, the last time I counted, I think there are about 25 or 28 subjects which you can take and choose from. Another disadvantage is you have to find a host school. So if you go on the Cambridge group, I've written down on there at the top which schools will allow private candidates, which is what we're called. to go and sit exams at their school. And usually they tend to be the private schools, which the whole experience is very nice. You do pay, again, I'm just trying to remember, I think it was $300 per subject. But prior to that, you don't get locked in. You don't have to tell Cambridge that you're going to do that. You are just paying the money when you take the exam. Getting UE with Cambridge. You have to survive to do the literacy requirement and the numeracy requirement. Okay, that's the first part. Now, the IGCSE maths, grade D or higher, that's D for dog, or higher, that will tick the box for maths for numeracy, okay, for UE. For the English, the literacy requirement, the student at this age needs to do English at AS or A level and get any grade. And then they need to have got points for their other AS and A levels. Pretty much what it works out to be is do IGCSE maths and get a grade D, take English at AS and pass, and then that will give you some points, and you have to make up the other points with other subjects, and you have to get 120 if you want entry, or if you want preferential entry for maybe engineering at UC. It's 140 points, but it's very achievable. Okay, very, very achievable. They do not all have to be taken at the same time, but each university varies slightly. So it's always worthwhile when you've got your IGCSEs approaching the universities themselves and going, this is the course we're thinking of. These are the subjects at A level we're thinking of taking. And is there anything else that we need to do? Okay, because certainly my daughter wants to go to Vic, and they were not happy with sociology as an A level. Otago was fine, UC was fine, but not Vic. So she swapped to doing psychology instead, which was always up there anyway, as something that she really loves. So go on the individual university website, contact them. They're always happy to look and talk to prospective students. But UE is as simple as IGCSE maths. Make sure you take English at AS or A level, and then a few other subjects to fill up those points. IGCSE is the most, I won't say prestigious, the most widely taken exam around the world for international exams for 14 to 16-year-olds. Okay, so everybody knows about Cambridge. The A levels are seen as prestigious here, including by the universities. They're robust. They're currently not online, and they're going to trial online things, but they're worried about cheating because cheating is quite prolific in certain exams, in certain types of exams. So there are a number of things you have to do, for example, photo ID, to make sure that it is you sitting that exam. There are exciting options. You can get scholarships as well, and there are also prestigious things like top of the whole world for things, or top of the country, and they carry prestige and money prizes as well. It's a great option, but if you don't think your child is academically able to do it, talk to somebody or jump on the group and go, what should I be doing? Because there are certain little tricks that you can do to take subjects which will work far better for some children than others. Right, I've run out of time. Back to you.
Thank you, Nikki. This is a whirlwind tour tonight, like a lot of our talks have been. But thank you. That was awesome. I have been following your group for a while, but that was beautiful and concise, and that taught me a few things as well. So please, guys, we haven't had any questions yet. You guys are a quiet bunch tonight, and I can see there's a few of you watching us live. So please pop your questions up and we will answer them. But I will say bye-bye to Nikki for now. You will be back later. And I will welcome the lovely Erin to the stage. So Erin is going to talk about our NCEA option and Takura as an option tonight. So take us away, Erin. You're muted, Erin.
Like, you would think that after 4 years of teaching online, I would have worked that out.
It's
Hi.
easy to forget.
Hi, I'm Erin Parkinson. I teach online and still can't work my mute button sometimes. I forget that I'm mute because I had noisy teenagers in my background. So, yes, I am going to teach. I'm going to tell you guys about NCEA and Takura and doing that as a homeschooler and how that works. I have a slide, so let me put this up here. So, NCEA is the New Zealand National Certificate of Educational Achievement. It is what replaced School C and Bursary and Sixth Form Certificate for those of you that grew up here and used those ones. And it has gone through many changes and is still going through changes. If you've seen the news, this new change that's happened this year for Level 1, teachers, parents, the Ministry of Education is not happy with it, so it's going to go through more changes again, guaranteed. That's what happens. So, what is it? It's got 3 levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. And generally, you do those in year 11, year 12, and year 13, the last 3 years of school. For homeschoolers, that does not mean you have to do it in those years, though. Secondly, many schools have dropped level 1. So they teach at year 11 level, for form level, the same way that they've been teaching in year 9 and 10. They teach the work. They might have school tests and assessments, but they don't put them through all the assessment rigmarole and the exams of doing level 1. And for my daughter's school, for example, when they announced several years ago that they were dropping level 1, they said that gave them 10 extra teaching days a year. So 10 more days in a year was saved from not doing all this assessment, which is huge. That's an enormous amount of teaching time. So they dropped to level 1. It simply meant that the kids went straight into doing level 2 and then level 3. You will find that lower decile schools on average tend to do level 1 more than the higher decile schools, and that is because if kids are dropping out at the age of 16 or at some points sort of between 16 and 17, you want them to have a qualification. So if level 1's the only qualification that they might achieve because of the age they're dropping out, then you, as a school, you're not going to want to drop level 1 so that they're leaving with no qualification. So the higher decile schools that have more students, the majority of students will not drop out until after level 2 or 3, often feel like they can drop it. And some of them have their own certificate that they're offering. Others just treat it like a year 9 and 10 year. Okay. Within level 1, 2, and 3, you have credits. So you've got your subjects that you do, and every subject offers credits. And those credits could be worth between sort of 3 and 6. It might be, a standard might be worth around 3 to 6 credits. Sometimes it's worth 2, generally not more. And you can achieve them with excellence, with merit, just with an achieved, or you fail it. So let's take, for example, a history standard. I'll just go back to this example that was here before. Just down the bottom, a history standard might be carry out an investigation into a historical event of significance to New Zealanders. And this could be worth 4 credits. If you pass it, you get 4 credits. If you pass it really well and you get an excellence, you still get 4 credits, but it is with excellence. And that will matter later on. And it's a way of acknowledging, hey, you did a really good job versus, yeah, you barely passed. If you fail, you get 0 credits. There's no, you get 2 of these 4 or you get 3 of these 4. Okay, it's 0 or 4. If that standard, for example, is worth 4. And there are also something called unit standards. So unit standards are not approved for university entrance, which will matter if you are at level 2 or 3. And these are usually more vocational type subjects. So, for for example, doing a formal interview with somebody, that will be worth 2 unit standards. It's pass or fail. There's no, well, you did an okay job, so, you know, it's just pass or fail. And these are the kind of standards that you will achieve even if you're not doing NCEA at school. If you go and do, say, a mechanics apprenticeship, then what you do in that apprenticeship is standards, and you will be given credits for that. Okay. You need to have 60 credits at level 1, plus the literacy and numeracy co-requisites, which I'm about to talk about. That's another 20. So you need 80 credits in total at level 1, but 20 of them have to be from literacy and numeracy in a particular test. Level 2 and level 3, you also only need 60 plus 20 from the level below. So if you're going straight into level 2, you need 80, but 20 of them you could just do at level 1. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, 20 credits at any level plus, you know, the level below or any level below, and another 60 at your level. And like I said, you don't have to have done level 2 to do level 3. You don't need to have done level 1 to do level 2. It will be difficult, and I'll tell you why if you started straight in at level 3, though. This is what it would look like. So, for example, in English, there are lots of different standards that you can do. If you were in a school teacher would normally be offering anywhere between sort of 18 to 22 sort of credits in total. So that might be, you know, 6, 7, 8 different modules, standards. And it says internal and external there. So you can see some of these are internals. Construct and deliver a crafted and controlled oral text, so a speech, worth 3 credits. Down below are the unit standards. Be assertive in a range of specified situations. That's more of a drama English one, and that's worth 4. It's quite a lot of work involved, actually, for that one. These are the externals. So when you do an external English exam at NCEA, there's usually 3 standards. You get 3 hours. You don't have to do all 3 standards. So you can walk in, you know, many students have just walked into their NCEA English exams, level 1, 2, and 3, and they've chosen to do 1 of the standards or 2 of the standards, but they still had the full 3 hours. And they will have done that because they already had enough credits from internals to allow them to only get 8 credits or 4 credits from an exam, rather than trying to complete all, you know, 3 standards within 3 hours. So it gives them a bit of extra time. But again, some students will do all 3 because they want 12 credits. The new level 1 achievement standards. So this is brand new. The only people who really understand... No, let me take that back. I would hazard a guess that there's nobody that really fully understands this, including the teachers. But the people who have the most knowledge about this are only this year's students and teachers, because it's brand new. And I'm on a lot of Facebook groups for New Zealand teachers. And they are frustrated with these two because they came in so quickly with so little information. But as of this year, everybody does just 4 standards in any subject at level 1. 2 are internal and 2 are external. They're worth 5 credits each, so a total of 20 credits. So it's just 4 modules per subject instead of what I showed you before, all those different options for English, where you could actually pick and choose the ones that suited you. That was the really good thing about NCEA, is that a student or teacher could look at these different modules, these standards, and go, you know, if I've got a child that really doesn't like, you know, speaking and speech, we're not going to do that. We're going to do crafted and controlled writing, and we're going to do analysing significant connections, and then we're going to do form-developed responses, and we're going to do 1 exam. We're just going to do the unfamiliar text. And that really suits my student. And as homeschoolers, that was something you could choose with Chikura as well. If the new system rolls through into level 2 and 3, they're all going to reduce back down. So I'm not sure why, because that was the good thing about NCEA. So many schools, as I said, aren't doing level 1, so they don't have to worry about this. There is also, however, this new CAA, these literacy and numeracy co-requisites. And all learners doing level 1, 2, or 3 need to have their CAA. So you can sit it at any point. You can sit it in year 10, you can sit it in year 13. Most schools are doing it in year 10 and 11, and it's 20 credits of literacy and numeracy. You can resit it and resit it until you've got it. It's a lot heavier on the grammar for the literacy, because grammar hasn't been something that's been a big focus, and it's been an issue with English. And yeah, there's a transition period at the moment. This is also brand new, so it's definitely going through a teething phase. NCEA recognises high levels of achievement. So if you achieve a large number of excellences or a large number of merits across all of your subjects, you can get a certificate endorsement. Or if you're just in one subject, if you're doing really, really well in mathematics and you get all excellences, then, or mostly excellences, you can get a course endorsement. This is just kind of a bonus and an extra boost to the student's confidence at level 1 and 2, but it really does matter. If they're doing exceedingly well in level 2, it will matter because they could get early entry into university. And it matters for your rank score if you are wanting to go to university and you're adding up your credits, because an excellence credit at level 3 is worth more than an achieved credit at level 3 when trying to get into a harder course like engineering or medicine, pre-med and stuff like that at the universities. So university entrance. If you are trying to get into university before the age of 20 and you need UE, you need to have 3 subjects at level 3 of at least 14 credits in those subjects, and they need to be approved subjects. So yes, you can get a unit standard in being able to back up a trailer, but that won't help you if you're trying to get into university. Those credits might be great if you're trying to get a job in a vocational job, but they're not going to get you into university. So you need approved subjects are the what you would think would be approved. Physics, biology, English, social studies, history, accounting, all of those ones. And there's a big list. You'll find them all over if you just type in university entrance, approved subjects. You also have to have UE literacy. So that's 10 credits at level 2 or above, 5 in reading, 5 in writing. So you need to do some English, or English heavy subjects sometimes will have a UE approval. So, if you've done a history requirement at level 2 that had essay writing, it will usually count for your literacy credits. And numeracy, you need to have 10 credits at level 1 or above. So for those of you that want to go to university but really struggle with maths, you only need to have done some level 1 maths, not carry on through level 2. Like Krystel said, there are other ways to get into university as well, into tertiary courses. That's not my talk, though. Now, the biggie. You cannot, as a homeschooler, complete level 1, 2, or 3 in New Zealand any longer without signing up to Te Kura, which used to be called the Correspondence School. It is our largest state school. It is all online. And once you are fully enrolled, you are not officially a homeschooler. Yep, your kid's doing school at home. They're doing it under the guidance of teachers, kaiako, and you are their supervisor. It's all online, so that is something to take into consideration if you've got a child that is going to, every time you leave the room, start gaming. This is not probably a system that's going to work for you, unless you want to sit there and keep an eye on that. If you enroll in Te Kura before the age of 16, it will cost you around $1,800 per subject, unless you have special entrance for mental health reasons, distance reasons, all of that. It was originally set up for kids who live in a lighthouse or simply live more than, say, 15 kilometres. I can't remember the exact amount, from a school. From 16 onwards, it is free for all New Zealanders from 16 to 19. Okay, and if you do sign up to Te Kura, yep, you've got to jump through a few hoops in terms of you've got to do this workbook, you've got to do this work, then you can do the qualification, do the assessment, send it back in, get it assessed, get your credits. The reason you have to do Te Kura to get level 1, 2, or 3 now is because you cannot get all of those credits just by doing your external exams. Because as homeschoolers, we can go ask a school that's offering them, your local school, can we sit the external, please, on the same day that everyone's sitting it? You sign up with NZQA to sit the external, to rock up at the school and do it as a homeschooler. That's great for exam practice. It's great to get some credits, but you need to have those internals. You need to have them now at level 1, and you need to have them for the full complement of what you need for university entrance. So essentially, at some point, if you want a full qualification, you are going to have to sign up to Te Kura. Basics about Te Kura, like I said, it's online. It's an online portal. If you don't ask for help, you probably won't receive it because the teachers are overworked and have a lot of students, and many of them are problem students. If you do ask for help, just like at a school, you're going to have excellent teachers on there and you're going to have some rubbish teachers on there. So as a parent, you probably want to step in and say, look, can we change teachers? It's not online classes. There will be some offered, but it's generally work on your own, self-motivated, working off the computer, reading what's there, filling in the workbook, watching the occasional video, but very, very little online teaching sort of thing. I think I'm done. I think that should be the basics. I know there will be questions because Te Kura is a difficult thing to get your head around in NCA, but there we go.
Thank you, Erin. There is actually a lot. I didn't realize it was quite so complicated. So,
and honestly, that was just some of it. There's a lot more.
Yeah. All right. We do actually have a relevant question to this, so we might as well tackle this now. There you go. Have there been any
homeschool children sit CAAs yet? I would say with Te Kura, absolutely. Outside of Te Kura, I haven't heard of any, but that does not mean they don't exist. Yeah, so there we go. Just be aware, there's two things about the CAAs. They're going through a transition period. So right now, if you have students who have started NCA, you probably don't need to be told this, but if they were already on their way, they're already sort of 15, 16, 17, they don't need to do the CAA technically because there are some other credits. There are some literacy and numeracy ones that can be subbed in for the next 2 years, just in this transition period. For everyone else, we'll have to do CAA unless they decide to drop it. I suspect they won't. And you can do it at any point. So you could do your CAA requirements when they're at level 2 or level 3. They don't have to be done before you get to level 2. For example, at Epsom Girls, everyone's done them this year. So I think the year 13s have done them, the year 12s have done them, everyone just sat them, including the year 10s. Because if you fail, you can have another go at it. And it gave the school a good idea as to where they were, where there were gaps too.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we might as well take that one down. So that is the only relevant question for Te Kura. We have had a few questions.
Sorry, Krystel. If you just noticed, Carissa has answered that yes, and the results did come through today. I noticed Carissa, yes. But she was answering Yolanda that yes, there have been some homeschool children that have sat the CAAs. Carissa is also an English teacher, so she's got a good lead.
I see. Thank you. We appreciate help answering questions in there. It is really lovely. Well, if there are no relevant questions right now, we might as well break early. I guess we can break for a cup of tea a little bit early and come back in 10-15 minutes or so. We've collected some questions from the Facebook groups and things like that. So there will be Nikki and Shirley and Erin and me all answering the questions that have been given to us and just having a good old yarn and chat about different things. Here we go. We've got one. Do you want to answer that one? Do you want me to bring Nikki on and answer that one, Erin?
I think Nikki needs to do that.
Yeah. Most schools will allow you to sit exams. All of the Cambridge schools will allow you to sit exams in October and November, and some of the Cambridge schools will allow you to sit in the May-June session. So for the main June session, I will be talking to the school in January and paying in, I think it's late February for that one. And for the October, November, I contact the school in about April time and pay mid-June. And exams start around the 1st of October. So it's about, 3.5 months before taking the exam.
Okay. I will bring Shirley up on stage to do this one. Hey, Shirley. Oh, you need to unmute, please.
I'm unmuting. I just realized in time. So the question about what to do before the GED is a common one. And actually the answer is what I love about it. You can do whatever you're happy and comfortable doing with your children up until age 16, 17, as long as, of course, it makes sense that you're covering the subjects that the GED is going to test, being maths, science, English, and social studies. So whatever curriculum you're happy on, carry on with that. And if you're not sure what to use, the ones that Krystel sells at her business, Engaging Minds, are some of the best ones that I've used. And I love them and I always recommend them. And she doesn't pay me to say that. So, there are great resources that you can use in New Zealand and any of them will do. And then when you feel your child is ready to tackle the GED or any other option that you may choose, it's normally when they reach about year 11 level in their ability in maths and English, I would say, are the most two important subjects. Then you can have a conversation with your child and you can decide which route is going to suit them, their motivation, their career goals, their other activities that they're involved in, how much time they want to spend studying. And, for us, the GED just gave us that freedom to continue using these programs that we loved. And we liked the idea that we could sit each exam when the student felt ready for that subject. There was no, with Cambridge and I think with Takura and the NCEA, the exam dates are set by the examining board or the exam body. Whereas with the GED, they can be taken year round at the test center and you can pick the date and the appointment time that would suit you. So we love that flexibility. And I think for children with neurodiverse issues, that flexibility is important because they can sit the exam when they know that they're ready and it's less pressure for those kind of students and they are able to do it. I have testimonies from parents and tutors of those kind of students who've said that it was a great solution for them. If anybody else wants to add about how to approach the other options, we can also discuss that.
I will go next. For NCEA, there are accommodations for neurodiversity. There's certainly accommodations for dyslexia. They do require you to put in a bit of work, in my opinion. So you would need a formal diagnosis, and Takura, or there's others who will tell you about that, but you can get a reader-writer. Now that's useful. That's really useful if you've got a child that is very, very slow with writing, but that does mean that you need to work with them so that they can verbalize what they want the writer to write. If they haven't practiced doing that, you're putting them at a disadvantage because that's not a normal skill that you would often do. It might be how you've done homeschooling, in which case that's great, but a writer has got really strict conditions as opposed to mum or dad helping them write something out. So, there are accommodations for that. And of course, the externals, yes, the externals are on a particular day. You go do your exam on that day and that's that. But the internals you can do in any order. You could take as long as you need to do any of those internals and throughout the year. So that works really, really well. Being able to pick and choose the ones that suit works really, really well. And I very much hope NCEA does not take that strength of the system away, because it was set up to allow for that, to allow for, hey, this kid has passed English, but they didn't have to do a speech. These ones passed English, they did speech and drama and then one bit of writing, and these ones focused on writing. That was the strength of this this resource, this achievement system. So we'll see how it changes. But at the moment, it is more flexible at level 2 and 3. And like I said, they're still working out the level 1.
Anything you need to add, Nikki, from a Cambridge point of view?
No, pretty much the same. There are accommodations that can be made. You need the right paperwork. You'll need to work closely with the school and make sure that they can accommodate the accommodations that you need. So you will need to have the paperwork in place, and not everything can be accommodated. It really is a sort of team effort between the school, the parent, and what Cambridge will be happy with.
Krystel, I'm going to do a little bit of, this is a reminder for you for some things that you needed to add. But also, so I do just want to stress these are academic pathways. These are 3 examples of secondary pathways to get a qualification that you might want just to have that certificate, to have that qualification, and usually because you're wanting to get into a tertiary course. There are other ways to get into tertiary courses. There are certainly much easier ways to get into courses that aren't like university level, but maybe at polytech level. And again, like Krystel had said, you've got foundation and bridging courses, STAR courses, entry at 20, which usually involve one of those. But there's all those things that are there if you don't want to be, if you're okay with not getting that piece of paper at 17, 18. If they go and work for a year, or they travel, or they go into an apprenticeship, if they do all of these things. Most apprenticeships will say they need level 2. And both Krystel and I have 2 sons who have, that's right, Krystel, done an apprenticeship, right? Doing one?
Yep.
We've both got sons who are doing apprenticeships who did not have level 2. They rocked up and they were accepted on their work ethic, their ability to speak, their, the obviousness that they had the smarts and the work ethic to work, and didn't need the piece of paper to say, yeah, they can write an English essay on this book, and they, my son now has level 2, and Krystel's will as well, because he had those unit standards completed, which gave him the credits at level 2, and some at level 3, and some at level 4, within like 3-6 months of doing his apprenticeship, which that's great. That he does not care at all that he has some level 4, because it's meaningless to him, because really they are, in a way. They're so important, but they're also in some ways a little meaningless. Once they've got a job or they're doing what they love, does it really matter if they got some points for it? Krystel, you have still one more to do.
I did, and I apologise to everyone. I forgot. So there is one other option that is available, another option available to New Zealand, and that is through Homeschooling New Zealand, which is a Christian organisation. So they offer 2 certificates that are accepted by our New Zealand tertiary organisations as an equivalent to either a school leaver certificate or UE University Entrance. So there is the CENZ Certificate of Academic Achievement, and that is essentially school leavers certificate, and it basically just gives you a transcript of your academic achievements. If you are looking to go to university at 17 and 18 and you want that additional certificate, they do have the level 3 CENZ certificate, and that gives you the equivalent of university entrance. So this is done, the achievements are based around a core set of Christian curriculum, which, for example, using ACE, LifePack, Alpha Omega, and there are other options as well. The credits are also available using a wide range of interest-based courses. So there is some flexibility there, but it is definitely a Christian organisation, and the core subjects are you will be needing to use a specific set of Christian curriculum. So if anyone is interested in that pathway, contact Homeschooling New Zealand for more information on that one. And we better break for a cuppa and stay on schedule. Oh, Erin wants to answer this one first.
Sorry, there was just
Erin.
there was just one more question for Shirley, but it's very fast to answer.
Yeah, so the 4 subjects are accepted as your high school credential. And then the SAT is the test that's used in the States to kind of separate the sheep from the goats, you know, the university material students and those that are not so suited for university. And the rule of thumb globally is that universities around the world will accept the credential that is generally accepted by universities in the home country. So because in the USA, the GED plus prescribed score on the SAT, it's not just any old score, is accepted there, it is generally accepted by universities around the world. And, you know, I always say to parents, the GED is not what prepares your child for life and at university. It's the whole homeschool career that you've built into them from, you know, kindergarten up until their final years, that equips them to be self-motivated students, to know their strengths, to, you know, have that ability to choose to go to university. And it's not the GED that's preparing them for university. The GED is just the hoop you jump through to get the piece of paper that shows the officials, I have finished home education. And it only tests what it tests. It tests those 4 subjects. And all of us are so much more than maths, English, science, and social studies. And I was just going to add earlier when you were talking about the students getting these apprenticeships, it's a child's ability to self-advocate and their self-confidence and the ability to recognize their strengths and pursue that thing that they're good at while working around their weaknesses that I think sets us our homeschool children apart from school children who, in contrast, are generally hammered on their weaknesses to bring those things up to standard. And they never discover what they're good at in the school system, or they seldom do. And we have that privilege of finding the potential in each child and majoring on that and helping them to develop that. And when they go into those things that they want to do, it's that self-confidence that I can do this that I think helps them to be so successful, and that impresses the people who employ them or, you know, interact with them. So on that note, I think we due for our break. Oh, Karen. Okay, Erin.
I was just going to say, I highly recommend, if you're wanting your child to go into tertiary, or if it's a possibility, if it's a likelihood, look at the ones that they're likely to go to. Every single university and polytech has their requirements on their website. And you can, if you don't want to look at all of them, if you pick Auckland or Canterbury, they've got the most stringent requirements if you just want to go for the top ones. But, you know, if you don't need to look at everything, because if you live in Hamilton, unless your child definitely wants to go to Otago and freeze, you don't need to look at Otago, you know. If they like snow, maybe they do, I don't know. But yeah, usually there's only 1 or 2 that you'll be looking at. So look at their requirements and it will tell you what they need. And I would just say, nobody's testing. No one's ticking a box as to whether they can cook a meal for themselves and do their own washing. But if they're moving out of home, that's really, really important. So, yeah.
All right, we can talk about this at length.
We will finish.
After the break. So we are going to go have a stretch, I imagine, and a cup of tea. So guys, we're going to have a shorter break this time because we have gone over time. So 10-minute cup of break this time, and we will see you back in, about 8:15. Thank you, ladies. I will see you shortly. Welcome back. And I have to change the background. My apologies. There we go. That's a bit better. Welcome, welcome. I hope everyone has got their cup of tea and had a wee stretch. I know I certainly did. So we are going to crack straight into it. And I have some questions here. So this is for everybody. We're just going to have a chat tonight. So please, guys, oh, excuse me. Please, if you have a question, pop it in the chat for us and we will do our best to answer. So we had Michelle Hunter asked on one of the Facebook groups, I did lose track on what one, should I be worried about doing too much? We do a mixture of online workbook, hands-on practical, art, sport, and reading. Who wants to take this one? Go ahead, Erin.
Is it stressing you or your child? If it's not, no. If it's causing issues, then yeah. If you're getting burnt out, if they're getting burnt out, if it's not maybe leaving any time for just, it is useful to have boredom sometimes in a child. It creates creativity, but if that's not the case and you're coping with it and they're coping with it, then no, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would just go do everything. Children don't know what they're good at until they've tried it. And also they're not very good at it when they first start. So you have to allow them to experience stuff before they go, hey, I'm really good at that, or I really enjoy it. Do everything.
Yep, I would tend to agree as well. I was basically going to say exactly the combo of what you two said. So I haven't got anything extra to add. What about you, Shirley?
I think we all go through seasons, and if you're coping in the season you're in, as Erin said, carry on. But there are some seasons where families do pare down what they're doing. There were seasons when I had babies and toddlers, and we kind of just did the minimum, and then I'd hear my homeschooling friends talking about the wonderful art appreciating program they're doing or outings that they're doing, and you kind of feel like you're missing out. But if you look at the long game, the big picture, they're many years ahead of you, and you will be able to add other things in again in a different season if you're not coping right now. So this is the wonderful flexibility that we have. We are the best ones to judge what's best for our family in our circumstances right now.
Hey, we've actually got Danny Archer sitting backstage.
Oh, have we now?
Yeah. So
I don't see her.
Oh,
hang on. I've got too much up on my screen. There she is. Hey, Danny. Yay. She made it. Sorry, there's too many things backstage for me. I will just take a couple down if I can.
Danny, what do you think about doing everything? Did you hear the question?
I did. I'm a child who did everything. So, but I agree with what Shirley was saying in terms of it comes and goes. So there are times when, yeah, you will do lots and lots, and there'll be times where you'll just tailor it back and do a few things. And I also think it's family dependent. Every family is different. Every child's different.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I was having babies, literally for a good 6 months plus, at least sort of the last 3 months of a pregnancy and the first 3 months of a newborn, we didn't do a whole heap other than like read and basic math. And my kids are okay. And my big kids went through that multiple times. I have 8 children. So they went through multiple seasons of mum's not capable of all the things. And they turned out pretty okay.
I just add another thought too, that some of us with large families didn't give the same opportunities to the younger children as the older children, or the younger children got new opportunities than the older children. Maybe the family finances were at different places in different seasons. Some of my kids did music lessons, then something happened and the others didn't. And I've just said to the younger ones, if you want to learn music one day, don't think that you're going to be too old. I've got a friend in her 50s who started a musical instrument, and she mastered it, and she started performing publicly with her teacher doing weddings and events. So it's never too late to learn. And we don't have to feel guilty if our children don't all get the exact same opportunities and the exact same kind of education. It definitely changes. I think we all start out much more strict and rigid with our first one or two, and we become more relaxed and confident and flexible with our younger ones as we mature. So it changes.
All right. You know what? I've got another good question that's a very good lead into this one, actually. What do you do on a rough day? Do you just write it off or do you push through? How do you know what to do?
I'll jump in first. It depends what kind of rough it is. You know, if it's relationship issues in the family, you push through because that becomes the lesson. Sometimes you've got to deal with an attitude before you can deal with the academics. And you've got to train children to, you know, not complain or not be mean to their sibling or share the pencil sharpener or whatever the issue is. But sometimes it's just outside things. You know, I had a week last week where suddenly there was disruption in the house and some of my kids were helping with painting. And I was feeling frustrated because I can't tick off my list of things I wanted to get done. And then I realized, but they're learning those skills. Those skills don't come out of a textbook. So they are learning. And for me, it was a rough day because I felt like I'm not doing what I had on my agenda. But I just let it go because I knew it's actually valuable stuff anyway. And I just had to reset my thinking because we tend to have the schoolish mindset that academics is the goal, you know. But actually, life is so much more than just academics. You go next, Erin.
Yeah, and do you know what? I'm so pleased you went first because I was thinking about this one last night. Krystel had prepped us with this question, and I'd forgotten about including about relationship thing. I totally agree. There are times when you should push through. If you are going to, I don't know, let your kids get away with something that is unacceptable in your family all the time, then you're not teaching them the lesson that is unacceptable. But if we're talking a rough day, everyone's tired and grumpy, or some of the people are tired and grumpy, and it's just not working, and pushing through that maths problem with that handwriting is causing more damage than, you know, the learning that they would get by doing it, by just complete that sentence, child, then, you know, or whatever it is, then depending on the age of your kids, put it aside and, you know, assuming they are between 0 and sort of 12 or 13, depends on what they like, but I would get the Lego out, dump the Lego out, put on an audiobook, or put on, my go-to was BBC David Attenborough's Planet Earth, because they enjoyed it. So it was TV time, but I kind of felt like they were getting something more educational out of it. Do you know, if you play that enough and you've got babies and toddlers, they start to mimic a really gorgeous English accent in a David Attenborough voice. Is that a useful skill for the rest of their life? Not really, but it was very funny in our family. So audiobook or just, you know, let them go outside and play, run around outside, go do some laps of the driveway. Keep the relationship happy and keep the schoolwork, you know, put the workbook aside and do something else. And if that's play, that's play. If everyone needs a nap, go do that. Mum needs a wine while everyone's having a nap, have that. But yeah, put it aside, have, you know, and if it's happening too often, then look at what's causing it. What is the issue? Is it a curriculum that's just not working for you and your family? Or is it a method? Is it the time of day? Is it a bad attitude from, you know, leaking through from you because you're stressed about a particular thing, or is it they don't want to do that particular thing? And is this something that you need to compromise on, or is it a stickler, or should you let it go? So, yeah. Anyone else?
Danny?
Yeah. Go on, Danny.
I was going to say I could come at it more from like a learning needs point of view, because I'm working with students where there's often rough days. You know, I've got they've got a lot of different things going on in their lives, and it is, you just need to change tact sometimes. And I like what Erin said, is at the time of day. Like if I've got a student as an example, just was not coping in the lesson, could not stay focused, and we were just not fighting, but we just kind of pushed through all the time, switched up that lesson time to the very first thing in the morning, and it's a completely different child. So I guess, is it a day, or is it a rough day? Is there external influences? Maybe they've had a big weekend or something, or is it something consistently happening, and what little tweaks can you make to kind of make that situation or make it easier for the child?
That's beautiful. That actually reminds me, Danny, we actually figured that out quite early on in my family. So my whole family are academic in the morning. If we don't get, I say bookwork, so if we don't get our set curriculum, and it's generally maths and English for everyone listening, if my kids don't do that prior to lunch, most of the time it doesn't actually ever end up happening. And that's just the way my family rolls. They are much better at the sit-down, focused academic work in the morning than they are in the afternoon. Just it is what it is. On rough days, we generally call it quits in our family. If like other people have said, if it's the family having a rough day, maybe Mum's been really busy and the family haven't connected enough, and we literally just need to actually reconnect, whether that's cuddling up on the couch watching a movie, playing a game outside together, playing a board game. We need some family reconnection time, and learning isn't going to happen unless that happens first. If it's an individual child, I've got strategies for each child that I've figured out what works as we've kind of gone along. I've got one child that I will kick him out the door for a run. That's generally his reset. One of my other kids, I will go read your book for 10 minutes and then come back. Another one plays brass. So different things for different kids. We'll just give them that reset. So as a mum, the more time, beauty of homeschooling, you actually get to know your kids really well because you spend that time with them. Nikki, you got anything to add?
No, that age thing is a really important one. I do believe that children have to learn that they're going to have, it's a practiced skill being able to concentrate, but you have to know as a parent and a teacher when to cut your losses. And see if there is a different way of doing something. So if they happen to be learning about something, it might be that you can actually talk about it while you go for a walk. It doesn't have to be in a book. You might be able to do, particularly even for older children, if they're having a really bad day, particularly girls when they're hormonal, it might be that there is a film that you can put on where you can discuss the issues that you would have been discussing in the book. And it just goes in at a different way, and you're going, oh, well, we're not doing schoolwork. You can become a master of disguising the work, but you have to know where it is they're going, because if every day is a bad day, like Erin was saying, I'd be looking at the curriculum. I'd be looking and going, is your heart really in this? Especially if they're a little bit older and they're sort of going, I'm trying to get to university, but I really just don't want to be doing that amount of work, or whatever it happens to be. Replan, spend a day, work out and go, look, and come alongside them. I hate that term, but it's like, come alongside them, go, I am on your side. I want you to have the best of what education can offer for you, but maybe we need to scale back what you are doing, or maybe we need to take an extra year to take the exams or things like that, because your mental health or your physical health is just not worth the stress that you are going through.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Hopefully that answers that question. All right, I have another one here. Eleanor asks, I would love some advice on how to teach a kid who wants to do all her learning independently, i.e. she does not want her mum teaching her, but actually she really does need a lot of help. Anyone had a child like that?
I haven't had a child like that, but I will say I know lots of people who have had children like that, and it's a difficult one, because we want them to be independent. We want them to have those skills. However, they don't have the understanding of where the bar is. And the bar, we've all agreed, it can be different heights for things. And it's very difficult if you keep allowing your child to do that and mark their own work or however they want to do it, to then show them where the bar is, because the people that I know that have done that have absolutely freaked out because they've realized that they are going to miss the exams, or by a long way, or they're going to have problems, and then they're cross with themselves. And once they get in that position, it's very, very difficult to sort of come together as a family again. What I would do about it, I don't know. It just depends on the child. So I know there are people out there. I can't offer an awful lot of advice in that case.
Erin, have you had a kid like that at all? You're on mute, Erin.
Yeah, teenagers again. A child that wants to work independently, but mum, dad doesn't think they're quite capable of it all the time, need more input.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I guess if we're talking, actually at any age, if that's really, really causing an issue and you aren't able or don't want to kind of put your foot down and say, nope, that's not going to happen because it's causing issues with their learning, I think at that point maybe you're going to need to compromise, and how old they are will matter how much you compromise there. Find some things where you think they can work independently on that, or that it doesn't matter quite so much how involved you are, and go, right, for these things, yes, but for these subjects or for this, I need to be involved. So let's figure out how much you get to do on your own. That's the kind of conversation that really is more an older kid, though. You got a 6 or 7-year-old?
Sorry, I just had a thought. One thing I used to say all the time to my kids was, I have to sign a piece of paper to say that I school as regularly and as well as that. And I used to throw the legal side at them, and that's what I would do. And they soon learned that, I think that's what I would do.
That's going to work with a lot of kids, actually. I'm really sorry, darling, but the government's telling me I have to be involved and I have to do this. Blame someone else. Let them blame someone else. You might not want to pick the government, but, pick someone. The Ministry of Education. Pick the Minister of Education at the moment. She says that I have to. I wish, but you can do this and this, and I will check in and help you with that and that. And of course, again, depending on their age, maybe it's just a particular subject or one or two subjects. Do you know, I homeschooled, but there was absolutely no way, I realized very, very quickly, I could not teach my children music. They had this idea that I could not. Now, I'm not great at the piano, but I know the basics. And my plan was teach them the basics and then I'll pay for some piano tutoring. Nope. They had this idea that I couldn't play the piano, and they had absolutely no intention of learning from me. And I realized I couldn't do it. They would not learn the piano from me. Every other subject under the sun, I was allowed to teach them, but they never allowed me to teach that. So I just had to give up and not teach them that. So I'm not quite sure what I would do if they're not, I don't know where it came from, but they just had this idea I couldn't teach them piano, and I kind of ended up having to roll with it. I'm not sure I was that helpful, but yeah.
Kids will be kids.
I'll just chip in with my thoughts. Yes. I think when children are wanting to work independently, that's a good sign. But everything about home education can be negotiated. And I think sometimes we need to say to our children, okay, what is your goal? And I, as your mom, as Erin has said, I have to hold you accountable to achieve your goals. And I think sometimes we've got to give them enough rope to hang themselves and discover, okay, I am not good at time management, or I am not good at whatever. I am bad at procrastination. And let them discover their own strengths and their own weaknesses. Because if we're always propping them up with crutches and giving them the training wheels, they aren't going to launch off and ride on their own eventually. And so I think it's good. It's always about relationship. Respect that the child wants to try and work independently, but then show them where they're falling short And then they have to be humble enough to accept, okay, I need mum to check my work every day or every week or whatever it is that you then need to do. Let them come to the realization themselves, and that you do have their best interest at heart. But, you know, they're not quite hitting the mark yet. And you know, we also geared, well, I certainly am, from my own upbringing, we all geared to succeed, and getting things wrong and making mistakes is to be avoided. But some of the best lessons in life are learned when we make mistakes, because if we get everything right, we're not learning anything new. We only learn when we've done something wrong. I don't know if that's the right word. So it's also just a change of our own mindsets.
So I would just add, yeah, if we're talking a teenager here, especially, what Shirley said, let them have the rope and then hang themselves on it. It's a terrible statement.
Yeah, okay.
Don't go, well, I want to see you working every day, because most teenagers have this, a lot of them are going to have this idea, if this is their issue, of, well, I want the ability to do it when I want. They might, you're not going to give them a whole month to learn this either. But, if you're I want to see this work done every day, and they want to try out not working this day or only working for, this subject, let them have a week or two. In the grand scheme of things, it's a really short amount of time, but they set it so when they break it, they can't go, that's just because you set the goal, so I wasn't really paying attention to it. If they've set the goal and said, yeah, this is the goal that I'm setting, and we're all agreeing to it and we've written it down, then when they fail, you're just like, oh no, you didn't keep it. So now this was the consequence that we agreed on, that we'd move back to every day checking or every 2 days checking or whatever it is. So set it down on paper, because they're teenagers, and let them agree to it and write it, and then hold them to it. And of course, if they tick it off, then Shirley's right. That's a great thing.
Yeah. Consequences are great teachers as well. I've had various kids that, didn't complete the maths book by the end of the term or the end of the year. And so we just went through the holidays for a couple of days, and then they suddenly worked really fast and, completed what was required, but it was on them. And that lesson of procrastination was learned,
Yep. I've actually had this in my family. I have had one of my sons basically turned around and said, Mum, I don't like teaching me math. I was like, cheers, mate. That's great. But anyway, our solution was he learned via video. So there was, we happen to use Matthew C, so that has video instruction. He just didn't like my style. My style of teaching didn't suit his style of learning. Not my fault, not his fault. It just was. But we compromised. So I said, I still need to know what you're learning, and I still need to be checking up on you. So I'm like, how about we watch the videos together? That way I know exactly what he's learning and where he's at. So we did that. And he wanted to mark his own work. I said, sweet, that's fine. But I need to do the end of week test. So I still need to be seeing your work and, checking in on that once a week. So that was our solution. And it worked actually really well. And I have one other one as well that I've implemented with my kids. So we do, what's it called? We do record books. So Sarah McKenzie of Read Aloud Revival talks about this on her YouTube channel and her podcast. Essentially what it is, Americans call them spiral notebooks. We've got 1B5 books here in New Zealand. You have a 1B5 book each with your children, split each double page spread I split it into 6, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and extras. So my kids, I set them goals, so term goals essentially, and we agree on that together. And then they are in charge. Okay, this is my 13 and 14-year-old too. So my older teens, young teens. And they're in charge of their week. So they know it's agreed upon with me how much they need to get done by the end of the term and how much I expect of them throughout the week, but they're in charge of when they do it. So if they want to do all their math on one day, they can, but they still then have to do a whole day of getting the English done or a whole day of whatever is on their list. We put sports on their list, music practice, everything goes on that record of learning. So they now fill it out. They decide their timetable as long as it fits in with the rest of the family as well. And that has given my kids independence in their learning and their day and how their day is structured. But I've still got that written record. I look at them once a week as well. So it's this constant checking in process. So that's another way, another option as well. Danny, have you got anything to add?
I'm just taking notes mentally, going, all these are all great. Because I was just thinking, I've got a 2-year-old who wants to do everything by themselves at the moment. So,
oh, the glory 2-year-olds. Yeah, I've got a very independent one.
So sometimes you get what people call the strong-willed child. And a good tip I was given is to give that child a choice and to say to them, do you want to do your maths first or do you want to do English or something? So that they actually feel they have control and they're not constantly being told by you what to do and when to do it. You give them options. So there's boundaries, but they can choose. It works pretty well.
And I would add, I mean, that advice has been around a long time for toddlers, but there's another really key thing. Our 13-year-olds are 3. Like, you use some of those really good toddler tips and you change them very slightly, but you can use those with your teenagers. They've got the same rush of hormones going through them and growth spurts and all of that. And sometimes it's what the teenagers need too. No, it's going to have to be this way, but you can do it this way or this way.
Yeah, and I would say that canalization is something I've used all the time. It's like, what instrument would you like to play? Not playing an instrument is not an option. You're only presenting them, you say, with that. So you can be very clever with your wording, which works really well for young children and teenagers. You know, teachers tend to be masters of that. It's like, we're doing, what are we starting with? We're starting with this or this or this. They're not starting with option anything else. And that's something, we use a lot in teaching. Danny?
Well, Danny's been taking notes.
I just meant in the teaching. Did you use that an awful lot, or is it maybe my 11 to 18?
No, I think I just maybe used it without realizing I'm using it. I do know in my lessons at the moment, I use that's not an option quite a lot. Comes out of my mouth. Well, that's not an option right now. So which one? Like, what are we going to do? So, yeah.
Over the years, I've also had a number of emails sent by mothers with an 11 or 12-year-old who just starts digging in their heels and they're just resistant and they're reluctant to do like anything academic. And there's just, the relationship's not good. There's tears and there's drama. And then they sort of throw their hands up and the mum's in despair. What must I do? And a veteran homeschool dad gave such good advice that I've seen and heard worked so well. And it's basically just leave the child. Make sure that they still have to do their chores in the home and responsibilities and a few minimum things, but academically give them the freedom to do whatever they want. So it's basically the deschooling kind of process. Don't let them just get into gaming. Don't let them just veg on the couch watching rubbish on YouTube. Let them actually get bored. And sometimes they just need that season at puberty to find something that they actually want to do. And this man told a story of a youngster who came out of the high school system and was like that. And his parents just gave him 2 years to basically unschool. And he started growing vegetables. And then he realized that permaculture, where you use, have chickens and you use their droppings, was a good idea. And then he got into breeding chickens. And then during his high school year, he started doing correspondence learning. And from breeding chickens and selling them and selling their eggs, he decided he wanted to go into farming. And that's what he ended up doing. So it was actually an amazing testimony. But most of us feel terrified to just leave our kids alone at that age for a year or two to figure out what they want to do. And another story was of a homeschooling mother who had done very flexible learning until about 10, 11. And then her boys she just let go the reins. And she said, we are now unschooling. And she said for 2 years, they actually did just play computer games. And then they all decided, she had twins and an older one who had some learning issues. So they were kind of all three on the same level. And all three decided in their teen years that they wanted to do Cambridge. And they did. And they passed the exams with flying colors. It was the first time they'd ever written exams in their home education careers. But she had given them the time to find the motivation to do something that they wanted to do. And all three went to university, studied in completely different fields, one in engineering, one in healthcare, and one did something else, psychology or something. But they all were top students at university. And it's just so interesting because I wouldn't feel comfortable with my kids gaming nonstop for 2 years and not doing any schooling. But sometimes you do just have to take a different approach if what you have been doing is just not working with your child. You know, that's what's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. So that's quite radical strategies to use. But I think it's about giving the children time to find their own motivation. And that's the lesson that I got out of it.
Yeah, I know somebody who did that, but it never came right. And they worked on a supermarket checkout. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they were despondent because they had no qualifications and they had no way forward. So it does not always work out, just so that people know, you know, you can have, for some children, yeah, absolutely it can work. And for some children, it just doesn't, because, you know, they were allowed to do that for 4 years and realised they had very low maths and English skills and no chance at that point, because this person was pregnant, of getting any further with their education. So, and I think that's really difficult for parents, because you don't know what your child is going to do. You don't know whether they're going to go click and into something fantastic, or if they're just going to turn the other way and go, this is terrible. And the worst of it is, this particular person blamed their parents. So, you know,
I think a good compromise would be to say to the child, well, you know, in this world, to get any kind of certificate, you generally have to have maths and languages and a few other subjects. So how about in the season where you are so reluctant, we agree that you will do, say, half an hour of maths and half an hour of English a day, and kind of set some minimums and some boundaries, so that, as you say, you're not completely neglecting everything. And that could be negotiated. And then other tasks or chores, or maybe they're things that they do want to do. But I would sort of try and give them some minimums, not just nothing.
I mean, it's been really fantastic, but being able to present people with options, because I knew NCEA was an option and Cambridge was an option, but a GED and SATs only came on my radar fairly recently, because I didn't know anybody. Even though I'm in Christchurch and we're a huge homeschooling community here, I simply did not know anybody that had taken it. So, you know, talking to people out there, you need to be aware of what they're at, you know, what the options are, so that your child, if they're not a Cambridge person, because not everybody is, you can go, well, maybe that's not going to work for you. And maybe NCEA, because they don't want to do Cuppa, is an option. But you know what? We can do GED and SATs. We can do this, and they will be, you know, you can present them with options, because that's what it's all about. We all want our kids to succeed in life, and to be able to do that, they just need options. And as a child, it's very difficult if you don't know what your options are. Okay, so part of the reason for all of these 3 days is to go, hey, look, here are some options. Go and explore, go and connect with Shirley, you know, and do that, to give options to people, so that if your child is one of those children who is struggling with reading, just not plugging the study note, but I'm just going to go and talk to somebody like Danny and going, look, there are options out here. We can do this. Okay. And obviously Krystel mentioned other ways of, you know, through ACE and through different things. There are ways that you can pivot, and it's never too late to change.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to add on to that. Sometimes it's really hard, especially if it's a first child, but because, like Shirley said, you tend to soften a bit with your younger children, but sometimes it's about letting go of your expectations, because your child wants to do something or is really suited to, or wants to give something a try that is not what you really had in mind for them. I'm a bookworm. I'm academic. I trained as a teacher. I kind of started out with my kids can be anything they want, so long as they've gone to university first. Turns out not all my kids wanted to go to university, but there's also one, like, I've got 2 boys who want to work with their hands. They want to be doing things. And I had high hopes that maybe that meant that they would do engineering and get an engineering degree and then work with their hands. But no, they really, really want to do one mechanics and the other one's looking at mechanics and carpentry. And that's what they really want to do. And it makes them happy. And there are other things that make me happy and kind of go, you know what, I can let go of the university, and they may still go there. The eldest is 19. He might go in 5 years' time and do a degree, or he might never do that. And to be honest, the type of mechanics he's doing, he'll probably earn more than I ever did with my degree. But he will discuss politics, and that's a big thing in my family. We love to discuss politics and whatever's on the news. He can name countries in the world, and for me, it's just something that I really wanted my kids to do. And he doesn't mind listening to stories. He's not a bookworm, which I wanted all my kids to be, but he will listen to them and he can discuss them and he can talk about them. And he can cook and he can run the house. I left home and went to university and then married young with a grand total of like 3 things that I could make in the kitchen. I think that's a really major failing. I could clean my clothes, but I didn't really have any of those household skills that you'd think that anyone should have. These are things that I sometimes just have to remind myself. My kids can all cook really well, and they can run a household, and they can catch the bus, and they can answer the phone. They do their own appointments. They go off to interviews on their own without me needing to help them out. Does it really matter if they didn't go and get a degree, when actually if the aim was to get a good job where they're going to earn more money? He's got a good job and he will be earning more money too. And he can still go there. So there's some expectations I had to let go, because they have different interests and strengths and desires for their life than I had for them. That's okay.
I think that's a real generation thing, Erin. I know when I was in school, university was pushed. Really, really, really pushed. You weren't anything unless you could go to uni. It was, and this is wrong. This is not the viewpoint, but what we were essentially pushed on us was, if you don't get that qualification, if you don't go to uni, you're not going to get a good job and you're not going to be able to support your family. And that, it was a really bad mindset, to be perfectly honest. And the world is such a different place now than when we were at school. The education has changed so much, so many more options are available to our kids now. In the way that they can study, the internet, has literally blown up what we can study now. It's not just what's available in New Zealand. We can take online courses anywhere in the world. It's just huge. So it's so different. We do have a question. Sorry, who was that?
I was just going to chip in on that note and say,
Yep.
Our whole system is geared that children finish their schooling and then they must know what they're going to do next on that educational path. And some of us need a few more years. I didn't know what I wanted to do really. I knew what I was good at. And I've seen children also that finish their home education. And some of the lucky ones who know they want to do mechanics, or they want to do, become a paramedic or whatever it is. But some just know, I'm good at IT and I kind of like doing this, but I don't really know what I want to study and what kind of job and career I need to do. And some of my adult children have had 2 or even 3 gap years where they did other work, au paired, were overseas, traveled, worked in my business at home, or just had sort of time out before they made up their mind about what they wanted to study, if they wanted to even go to uni. And I just want to put that out there for parents who have a child like that, who's not sure what they want to do, and they're reaching the end of high school. And we as parents do feel a little bit anxious. We want to know that there's a plan and a path and they're going to succeed. But sometimes we just do have to give them a year or 2, make them go and work or get some experience, discover what they do like or what they don't like. You know, even doing something and then deciding it's not for you is not a mistake. It's a learning opportunity. And we've got to let them have these other experiences, not just pursue academics because it's what everybody pushes. There was a great quote, and I wish I could find it now, but it's too short notice, by the late Ken Robinson. And he explained how the whole academic system is run by the professors at the top who followed this academic pathway through the school system and the university system, and they've risen to the top point in that sphere. But not all of our children are suited to go into that sphere of life. And yet we still are conditioned by the academics in society. And, you know, he just pointed out that the system is biased. And we need to sometimes realize that there are these other pathways and other pathways to success. And we don't all measure success in academic terms. We all can measure success by whatever is important to us. For some, it might be money. For others, it might be security. For others, it might be happy relationships and families. Our values are not all the same, and we need to recognize that.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, but sort of following on from that, university is expensive. So I know, you know, my age group, we've got kids at university, and I'm hearing from so many people that their child started a degree and quit after a year or a year and a half, by which time they've got debt. Because they realized that it wasn't what they wanted. So I would also say, don't rush them into uni. My daughter has just finished her second year, and she was saying all of her friends are older because they've all had to do jobs to get money to be able to go to university. So when I went to university, everybody was 18, but that seems to have shifted. And again, I've got a couple of people who I know that work at University of Canterbury, and they were saying that the undergrads are getting older because the parents can't afford to put them through, and they're expecting them to go out for a few years to earn the money to be able to go and get the degree. But how hard it must be as a parent if you've actually funded your child to go to university for a start, because that first year is no longer free, and then they pull the plug and they've got the debt. So I think it's about knowing yourself and knowing your skills and sort of going, is it right, rather than just being on that conveyor belt, which we all agree. And as a teacher, I was 11 to 18. I was as guilty as everybody else. They were on that conveyor belt, and my job was to get them to university. That was what we were told by the schools in the UK. Okay, it was not necessarily for them to go and do something vocational. It was, we are measured by the government on our success and how many people have basically got the equivalent of UE. And what I'm being told as well by parents now is that some children are being stopped from taking exams because it shows up on the tables that the government sees, and they're actually being stopped from actually taking those exams, and they're gatekeepers to allowing them to actually progress through.
I was listening to a podcast just the other day that was saying that was in America, though, that the lower academic kids weren't allowed to take the exam because it would lower the overall score of the school. I was quite horrified that was happening. And it was happening on the opposite end, where the kids that were the academic kids that would score really well, who didn't want to sit the exams, were being forced to, essentially, or highly encouraged to up the school's mark. And anyway, we're going to get up topic if we go on that one. Okay, we do have one here. I don't know if anyone can answer this one here. Would anyone have any experience or knowledge of the learning with, I don't know how to pronounce her name, I'm really sorry, at Functional Education? Now, she was at the Homeschool Expo conference because I did meet her. I can say she's really lovely. Anyone know here?
I've just done a quick rehash. I had learnt about it slightly a long time, not that long ago, but long enough that I'd forgotten. So I've just been looking it up. The short answer is no. I don't have experience with functional education. It's another tool that you can use for your homeschooling. So if there is a class that she is teaching that you want to enroll your children in, then she's got the videos. She's doing the teaching in the videos. They're pre-recorded and they work their way through the videos and they will learn on that topic. It's another method of online teaching, which is something I do as well. So that works. If you are handing your entire education of your child and the responsibility of their education over to someone else entirely, that can be problematic. And in terms of functional education, that's a lot of online screen time where your child is just learning, working through those videos. So it's just something, it's like any tool. How much of this are you going to use? How good is it going to be for my child? Am I going to, are they going to be doing stuff that's not just online? Are you going to get them to be also working in a workbook or doing practical activities and all of those things? I'm not this huge advocate of workbooks. I'm also not a huge advocate of everything being online. There has to be a mix of all of them. They need to be working with their hands and doing practical stuff. They don't need to. My personal thing is that they actually should be doing some work with computers and online from a certain age because that is the age we live in. But I would say, you don't need to. Certainly not in the primary school years. If that's something that as a family you want to do away with all digital devices, sure. There are some really good things online. There's, whether it's typing, learning to type, or whether it's taking a class, they're very, very different. But they still need to know how to handwrite. We're not in such a digital age that we don't write things with our hands and, operating a pen. I just had to take a whole lot of notes last night and I realized how much I'm not used to writing for more than, writing notes, sure. Writing for 5 minutes maximum is all I've actually done. And so suddenly writing for 40 minutes because I had to write my notes out, I went, oh, my hand is tired. I would not be able to sit in a written exam anymore where I write for 3 hours. I got cramp. Those are things that, those are skills that we still want our kids to be able to do, is be able to do work in a book and online and practical activities, and getting outside and doing stuff. So it's a tool just like any other curriculum and resource. Have a look and see whether it suits.
And I will just say as well, having heard some stories, this has nothing to do with functional education. Can you take that question off the screen?
Yeah, I will.
Obviously, there are online providers for Cambridge. There are people like Crimson Education, things like that. And I will just say, before anybody parts with any amount of money, particularly when it's a large amount of money, make sure you know what you're getting. And that, I think, we'd all agree with. It doesn't matter whether you're paying for a tutor or, going for an online school or whatever. Know exactly what it is, because some people have paid a fortune per year for stuff that they could have had for free or for very little cost. So just make sure you know, and also talk to other people who have used these people. And again, that's nothing to do with them. This is to do with online schools and things like that. Make sure you know exactly what you're getting for your money. I'm very tight. I don't like people paying money for things that it's just not worth it. And that, again, that is not against the providers. I am just saying, know what you're paying for.
I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, we have a few minutes left, and I have probably a pretty good question to end on, to be fair, I reckon, anyway. And this one came from Nikki. But what is the one thing you want parents, so us 5, that you want parents to know about homeschooling in the teen years? Oh, hang on. We do actually have one more question. And think about that one while we answer this one, because we do have a few minutes.
Could you slowly add Cambridge into the curriculum from age 11 and slowly chip away at it? There is no chipping away at it. You're probably already doing a lot of the things anyway, whether or not you're using a Cambridge book. because it's maths and it's English and it's science, but you can you throw in things and keep it wide, like history and geography and art and music and PE and sort of everything. But if you're going to do that, have a look at the IGCSE papers, because they're the papers that most children sit when they're 16, so you can see where you are heading. Okay, it's as simple as that. Just have a look. They're free online. Have a look at the maths paper. You could even have a go at it if you wanted to. Or if you've got a really sparky maths kid, get them to sit the core paper for maths. There are 2 of them, paper 1 and paper 3, and have a go. And then you can sort of feel if they're in sort of the right sort of place. Because remember, that would be an exam that they would take when they're 16. Or have a look at the English papers and just sort of see, because a lot of people, there's some myths around Cambridge, like you have to write in full sentences and be beautifully grammatically correct for all of your subjects. And if you look at the papers, you'll see that isn't necessarily the case. So jump on the Facebook group and ask questions, because that's, yes, absolutely. But no, you don't have to come to Cambridge at age 11. I think it's better if you do, but you don't have to.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, so do we want to tackle this? One thing you want parents to know about homeschooling in the teen years. Shirley, you've probably got the most experience. Oh, no, Shirley and Nikki. Oh, no, actually, no. I'm probably the most least experienced here. Hello? 1 through. Got 2 currently. Shirley.
Okay, I'll jump in first. I'll probably think of other things later. I think something I often tell home educating parents is there's no deadlines in life. So we don't have to keep up with anybody else's timeline for finishing high school, for finishing any particular grade. You actually just need to know each child. And even in a family, one child may choose one pathway to getting their NCEA, the other may choose GED or Cambridge or whatever. And that's okay. And, you know, it's about doing what suits the child and recognizing who they are and giving them a say in their education. Always discuss with them which pathway they think they're most likely to want to follow to open the doors that they think they may want to go through one day. So, yeah, I think relationship is more important than trying to keep up with school or an ideal that you have in your own mind.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Shirley, pretty much wholeheartedly. I would just add as well, as a parent, it could be quite terrifying as they get older, because suddenly they've caught up with you, with your knowledge. You know, I'm thinking about my physics knowledge, which is like really small, things like that. And you don't have to have all the answers. Okay, there are great books and videos and people to ask and a tutor when you really, really get stuck. And your child, if you've done it well, will know how to learn. And they can come to you when they're stuck and you can go, we can do insert list of things here to get you through. So, you know, if you've done a good job, they will probably surpass your knowledge in a lot of areas. And that is not a terrifying thing. That is just a natural part of it. So just embrace it. And that's why it's about building community online, because you may find you are the only person doing your pathway, whether it's SAT, GED, Cambridge, you know, to Cuppa, whatever it happens to be. You might be the only one in your social circle of homeschoolers doing that. And it can be lonely, and you need people online to go to when you get stuck. But it's okay. You will get through. We did.
Yeah, I was going to add or fold back to what we were talking about last night, and that success looks different for every child. So not looking at like, this is where they have to be, but this is where my child is now, and then let's aim for here. And so just know that everyone learns in their own timeline, I guess is the way to put it. Yeah.
And I'd like to add, there's a question in the exemption that often really annoys a lot of people and is in some ways a bit pointless if you're doing an exemption for homeschooling with a 5 or 6 year old. It's that long-term plan one. What do you see? How do you see your child when they leave school, 15, 16, 17. I actually think that's a really handy thing to revisit when they're a young teenager or middle teenager. Not because you have to do it for an exemption and you've got to write it for the Ministry of Education, just for you and your family, you and your partner, and then also involve your teenager. But you personally, what are the things that you want them to be like and have done or know or be able to do at 18 or whatever age you want to pick? And some of the things I wrote in the exemption for my kids still hold true. I wanted them to have a passion for learning, like Nikki said. Turns out they have a passion for learning things that I don't care about sometimes, but they do actually have a passion for learning. They're not, they're not passionless when it comes to learning, and, they like educating themselves, just they want to do it on tools or something. Some of them. I also have one at university and all sorts. So, but there's more things that I realized were important, which I've already said before. I want them to be able to look after themselves and other people. I want them to have a heart for caring about people, and the environment is an important thing, was an important thing when I wrote the exemption, and it still is. I want them to be kind. I want them to know how to work. I want them to not smell. You can go for as specific and ridiculous if you like. I want not that any of my children. Well, but I have teenage boys who, honestly, the amount of time that you have to spend reminding them to use deodorant when they turn like 12 and 13. Wow. There's small. Yeah, I want them to have good personal hygiene. I want them to care about people. I want them to have good social skills. I want them to be able to cook and clean and know how to do those things and function in the world. And I want them to know about the world and care about it. Like, I want my kids to want to travel, because I didn't when I left school. I went to university and then got married young. And I wish I'd taken a year out and gone traveling, like many people and my teachers said I should do. And I was like, no, I don't want to get left behind at university, which is not a thing. I want, those are the goals that I have for my kids. So what I want people to know about homeschooling their teenagers, maybe write some goals and realize that some of the things that you keep thinking about in terms of academics are just a small part of the puzzle of growing this child into a fully formed adult. So,
yeah, I so can relate to pretty much everything you've said there, Erin. I know there is a really amazing list. I think it was either you or it was Cynthia Hancock made of non-academic things that you want your teenager to learn at 18, and I'm pretty sure I've screen saved it, so I'll see if I can type it out. It's been on my to-do list to do a blog.
I know I have written one. I was trying to find it for yesterday's talk and I couldn't. So
yeah, but it's important to think about those things, because academics, while it is pushed, is really a small part of getting our teenagers to be functioning adults, and that really is the end goal in all of this. But I guess what I can add to this is a bit of a personal story of my eldest, again at 19. So you, as parents, you cannot teach your kids everything. You cannot cram those brains with every single little piece of information that these kids need to know. But what is important is that they know how to learn. We don't need to teach them everything, but we do need to teach them how they learn as individuals, because we all learn differently. And my son had never done trigonometry. We did Matthew C, which teaches as a mastery course, and you do a subject per year. And he never got up to trig. It just he didn't need that higher level math. It just wasn't his forte. He's good at it, but he didn't need it. Anyway, but he did need it when he decided to do his building apprenticeship. And his boss said to him, have you ever done trig? And he's like, no, but give me 3 weeks. And he came home and he's like, Mum, I need to learn trig. And I'm like, sweet, lucky your parents own a curriculum store. What one do we need? This one. And I pulled the relevant book off the shelf, and it was at about a year 10, year 11 level, but that's all he needed for this. And he literally studied 2 years of trig in 3 weeks. He just read the relevant chapters of the relevant book, and he was like, oh man, this is easy, I get this, sweet. And because it was relevant, because he needed it for work, he learned it, and he learned it quickly. So don't stress if your kid is not learning all the things, as long as they have had a taste for it. Like Erin was talking about, keeping things broad, and they know how to learn, then they're going to be okay. It really is okay. The other thing that, when homeschooling in the teen years, is connect with your kids, check in with your teenagers all the time. I have set year-long goals with my kids, and it was a teaching process to teach them how to do goal setting. They couldn't when we first started. A year was such a long way away. But I'm like, set yourself some lofty goals. Why not? My 14-year-old has a YouTube channel. He set himself a lofty goal of getting 100 subscribers. I'm like, okay. And then we broke it down. How are you going to do that? So we talked about posting on YouTube and all these things. He does slow motion, stop motion videos. And he actually surpassed his goals, and he's got a couple hundred now. And but it was one of those things. So these are all things you can do with your teens. These are all things that you can do with the non-academic stuff. So much more we could talk about. Has that triggered anything else off for anybody? No. Shall we say goodnight and goodbye and thank you? This has been amazing. It's been so full on, but it has been an amazing 3 nights. I could not have done it without any one of these ladies. They have all put, and I mean hours, into doing these presentations. I know it's only an hour long, but you put so much work into doing them behind the scenes. So thank you to each and every one of you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of it.
And thank you, Krystel.
Any last words? No worries. It's kind of just snowballed. It's snowballed, but it snowballed in an amazing way. So I imagine we'll be back. There has been discussions already about what has been back. And guys who are watching on replay or live, let us know if there's stuff. If you want us to do this again, tell us. Let us know. Chat to us. You can chat on the Facebook. You can find us personally. Our details are up. I'll actually put them in the comments of this video. I'll make sure everyone has information on this on YouTube, because it will be up. So yeah.
And then I'd like to add something extra, actually, Krystel. If you're looking at curriculum and resources, Krystel owns Engaging Minds. So she doesn't sell everything, but she sells a lot. So head over to Engaging Minds. It's a lot cheaper than ordering it from America yourself or from somewhere else. If you want to know about GED and SATs, go check out Line Feather Learning. Also, if you're new, to New Zealand from South Africa, Shirley Erwee is your person to talk to about how to change over your sort of, what should you still be, I don't know what the questions are, but there will be some. So I know that they crop up, and then she is who I send people to. Tutoring, anything else for the study nook? Go check out Danny. Is there anything else that I'm missing? It's tutoring, isn't it?
Structured literacy is the main thing. Yep. So supporting dyslexia, students with additional learning needs.
Yes, very much. Dyslexia, if you listened to Danny's talk last night, and learning needs, then she's a really good go-to for that. If you want to know all the ins and outs of Cambridge questions, Nikki's the admin for a Facebook page. I would advise, there's been so many, check what questions have been asked, because there's been so many. You can read you can read the answers, so that I think Nikki's great, but also she sometimes does repeat herself a lot, because people ask the same question all the time. Not in a bad way for Nikki, but just sometimes we can save her a bit of work there on any Facebook page, I would say. Somebody probably has already asked that question. And then if you want your kids to do online classes and they're kind of in the age group of, I run one class per term for primary school, sort of 8 to 11. But if they're 11 plus, 11 to 14, then check out Parkinson online classes. So there we go, little plug.
You're awesome, Erin. You're awesome. All right, everybody. Good night.